curious to see if, that kind of time to marinate, as a team is going to actually, allow them to be greater than the sum of their parts, right? Which is typically, I think, the goal when you keep 5 people together for that long is you're expecting them to evolve to something greater than what they can individually be.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely the level of comfort there to where you've been together this long, like the tendencies, what this player likes. If you're like a jungler, okay, like this lane prefers pressure, this guy's more quiet. It kind of makes it comfortable, which I think could be great, but also I think could be bad if you get a little bit too comfortable.
True, but I think also too, I would be looking then to like mid and late game, right? Where I expect, again, if we've played together this long, to your point about tendencies, I know how we want to play the fights and we should ideally see more synergy in those scenarios.
Exactly, and that's really where they shine is mid and late game. They really don't play for the early game laning phase all that much, and a lot of it comes down to, Jack, you were just saying how much you've loved watching Saren over the years, him being that big, strong late game carry for the squad.
Yeah, we saw a fight at the start of this highlight reel where they actually won a fight against a Mountain Soul team. They do excel in fight setups and just having better hands than you in late game team fights. Not to mention, if you're in a situation like this, right, like Lucian versus a Sivir Silas, the late game scaling generally favors a lot of the ways they draft. So it is difficult walking into these tournaments, going back to a conversation we had at the start of the day, in 2012, but it's...
Yeah, today started in 2012.
Anyway, we talked about how a lot of times to beat teams that are, quote, better than you, scaling isn't the best way to do that because you would have to over-excel in the way you play laning phase. So a lot of times picking higher risk comps is the way to do that. That doesn't necessarily suit Istanbul Wildcats right now unless they can just perform that well individually to get to the late game with even gold.
Which does make Niski's assessment a little interesting because he had kind of pointed to their bot lane as being something they have to be wary of early, not let them get off to the races because they will snowball it, all the way to a victory. But we should also as well talk about the Mad Lions side. Of course, this is the second time we're seeing them today, already with a win under their belt is definitely going to feel good, but similar to the way that Lore was talking to Niski and asking him to immediately reflect on game one. How do the two of you reflect on game one and the relative strength of this team?
Yeah, I'd say they had a pretty sweaty game one.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly the way they wanted to start, but they should be feeling a sense of relief and I think be more comfortable coming into this one. With so many players playing partially in isolation rooms, partially on stage, I think it is a small advantage actually to be playing your second game rather than first. The disadvantage would be that you've shown some picks and strategy, the advantage being a higher level of comfort. I think in this situation, they should be happy playing their second game here.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is like Niski said, right? Like, this is a meta they feel comfortable in. They know, even within the meta, like, what they like to play. And we saw standard Mad Lions that we saw in the regular season from,
You're saying that as they get MF ulted.
Standard Mad Lions.
Standard Mad Lions.
Hey, Vetty said they can put themselves in a hole, but they dug themselves out of it. And again, a lot of it coming from Niski making those roams, Elyoya having a great performance. And even though it was like a tank matchup in topside, still being able to put some attention up there, like having the flexibility to not have to play around bot lane like they had to in LEC playoffs.
I think it was Arma who tweeted out or something about how his champion pool is only growing. He now has 24 different versions of Gnar that he can play because he can play every skin of Gnar, and Gnar has 2 forms. And so he's got something like a 24 champion pool deep, but it's all Gnar.
It's all Gnar. Also, speaking of Armut, I think this is a pretty big matchup for them. Former TCL player. For people that are looking for some talent that came out of that region, you have Closer, you have Armut, you have Blue. Right, there's been some
These guys are stars in their respective regions, LEC, LCS.
First 2 more than the third, but definitely Closer and Armut have had huge moments. So it's really cool being able to play against a representative from his former region.
Yeah, so let's hone in just a little bit on the mid lane again, because I think when we talked about Mad Lions, we talked about how so much of their strategy revolves around Niski in some form, right? Whether or not it's him who's going to ultimately get the gold to carry the game and win the team fights, or whether or not it's him who's going to get the work done around the map. I think that's where I return back to Saren. Yes, a name that is known fairly well for people who have watched a number of international tournaments. Can he do what Niski does? Can he measure up to that same bar? Does he have to take a different approach in entering this matchup against one of our most prolific roamers?
I feel like he does. I feel like Niski just does what he does so well. Like, he's definitely in like the elite tier of being able to impact the map from the mid lane, be able to dodge out on hard matchups, work with your jungler, to where we've seen Saren try to do that, especially in the regular season, but I feel like Istanbul Wildcats performs best when he was on things more like Azir's or Silas's or things that can also put up those big damage numbers for his team. I feel like he has to be a carry.
I want to talk about some champions.
Okay.
I'm going to preview a conversation that we're going to have a little bit later when we get the actual graphics for it. We want to talk about some crystal ball picks because those have been a very cool addition, to kind of, the entire world's tournament.
Since I hear we only have a minute, I'm going to throw a troll one in.
Okay, great. I love that.
I had a pretty long discussion with Goldberg backstage about which Drake to pick. Because most people are like, that's the most random one.
I overheard this.
He picked Mountain. I picked Hextech.
Yeah.
Both are wrong for certain reasons, but I know the wrong pick is Cloud. That's all I'll say.
Why is that the wrong pick?
Because people deprioritize Cloud Drake.
So actually here, let me ask this question. I don't know if did we ever get clarification on, in terms of that crystal ball pick, is it soul secured?
No, it's
or
most
just
killed Drake.
Yeah. Oh, it's just most killed Drake.
Yeah. It's likely a 5-sided die.
It's really what it is. A 5-sided die.
There's
only 4 Drakes.
There's 5. They added Hextech Drake, bro.
There used to be
we
6.
added, you're right. Oh my God.
6.
Ah!
Yeah. I did Hextech because I think it's powerful, but then he reminded me that, it's also hard to take because it does the chain lightning attack. Yeah. So I am actually very interested in this discussion for some reason. Because I'm trying to find a strategy for it. There is something to it. Mountain is too tanky.
Right, but by your logic, basically it's which dragon is the most enticing as a soul, because that's the only opportunity you ever have to get more than one of a type of Drake in a game is if it is the soul, right? And so the argument would be, I think, for something like Hextech or Mountain, because they're the most they're the ones that you want the most. So every team would actually fight to secure those. And so anytime they're the soul, we're likely to get both of those dragons to make them the soul. And so then they're out to indexing 2-1 every other Drake that showed up in that game. We're going to think about this some more.
But Mountain's too tanky.
We're going to think about it. Has nothing to do with the tankiness of the Drake. It's ridiculous. No, we're going to talk about this some more off air. We're going to come to a conclusion, and we'll let you know later in the show. For now, we're back out to Captain Flowers and Mark Z for the call.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time for game number 4 of the day. Mark, you know what I did with my my Dragon Pick'ems bet?
No, tell me what you do.
I min-maxed so I win no matter what. I picked Cloud Drake because he's boring as sin. So, if I'm right,
I see.
I get points. If I'm wrong, we get a better tournament.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you're taking one for the team here, and you can always pop off about, I get another Cloud. Who cares about the game?
I'm just going to bite the bullet.
Yeah. No, that's big brain. I appreciate gamifying it in that way. Here we've got Mad Lions looking for their second win of the day. They looked pretty good in their first one. It got a little dicey. There were some closer than I think people were expecting out of Viserys, but they did walk away with that win.
And I think a big part of that, again, like we talked about during that game, was Mad sort of just limit testing how disrespectful they could be, right? Just sort of being like, well, we know you've got AoE, but what if we just walk into the Baron Pit anyway?
Yeah, I think that's definitely maybe some ego checking. I do think the team was also, towards the end of the season, struggling to find their footing and how exactly they wanted to play the game out. And you can still see maybe some of those struggles a little bit. We'll see if they can adapt as this meta continues to evolve. We did see Niski, like they're talking about, on his Talia, did have a pretty good game, as well as Elyoya on the Hecarim having a very good game. It's been an ongoing conversation how to build Hecarim online. We'll see if it gets through the bans. It's been getting through, so people understand it is a power pick, but maybe not as threatening as some of the other champions that you're seeing banned out every single game, like the Kalista and Draven.
Plus, there's always a little bit of history with Mad Lions versus the TCL, right?
Oh, yeah.
This was the region that took them down that year that you were talking about with the 2020 when they were in the play-ins, when they failed to make it out. It wasn't this squad. I believe it was Supermassive at the time. But yeah, it was a 3-2.
Or was it 1907 Fenerbahce Isport? That was the one, I think. Didn't they make... Whatever. Either way,
we'll remember.
There's been some drama between the two. Also, Armut coming from the TCL as well, a Turkish player. People are going to be, I think, excited either way, maybe. Obviously, if you're a Turkish fan, you want Wildcats to win. But, you can always have some representation in Armut as well, who gets the Aatrox. People talk about the champions that Armut can play. There's a big joke in the EU community about only having 3 champions. But if you always get those 3 champions, like you got Gnar in the first game, you're good.
Supermassive.
You're right. I'm trolling.
I got it, baby.
I'm trolling. I'm sorry.
We're in there. It was Supermassive, but all right, we're into the draft. Kalista, Caitlyn, Sejuani, Draven, Graves, Hecarim. That means we are looking at 3 bot lane marksman bands, as well as a 4th marksman that plays that jungle role. Misfortune locked in first and foremost for the side of the Wildcats, and it's going to be a Jarvan for them in the jungle.
First Jarvan of the tournament, but I like the idea for how a lot of teams are looking right now. It feels like it's very early on in World's meta. We're only halfway through day 1, despite what you might think from the time. We have seen a lot of team fight comps, a lot of these kind of wombo comps, but then we've also seen some splitting 1-3-1s with kind of the carry solo laners up in the top side. Jarvan does fit that kind of team fighting identity very well. He can chain gank, he can do a lot of setup and CC. If you're going to combo with an MF, you can lock people in a pit and then shoot the bullet time over the top of them. It does match that identity quite well.
Yep, I love the AoE wombo combos. If you are going to draft Misfortune, set her up for success with that ultimate. Over on the other side, it's Trundle locked in second, as well as a Kai'Sa to respond to MF bottom side.
Alrighty, grabbing that one up. Elyoya, different look this time around, grabbing the Trundle instead, but did play that second most played in summer, I believe, for him, so no stranger to that pick. We'll have to see if this Azir coming in for Saren.
Okay.
All right, you heard them talking about on the desk that he is kind of the guy who does feel like he needs to be a big threat in the carry position. Obviously, Holy Phoenix had a fantastic finals. It was a strange fact that they were in finals for a lot of TCL fans. They struggled really hard after coming back from MSI. It was a tiebreaker to even get into playoffs. Then there were some weird picks on side selection on who they wanted to fight. Fenerbahce was selected. They had arguably an easier matchup for Wildcats, and they made this run into playoffs to win the 5th game of that series. Is very surprising that they made it, but here they are again to represent TCL.
And of course, everybody keeps eyes on Holy Phoenix on this roster. Like, this is the guy who's the shot caller. He's the leader. This team has been together for 4 splits, so they're very familiar with one another. This is the dude who has 8 TCL titles under his belt already. He is no stranger to international competition.
No, not at all. This team has a lot of veterans now. They made their first World appearance last year, but I believe it's now 3 international tournaments in a row for them. So kind of...
That is correct, or at least that's what my paper says.
Well, we'll go with your paper.
If you're wrong, we're both
you
wrong.
You sound pretty good. I think you're smart. You must have it, right?
All right, we got this. We got this. Anyway, let's see how the second half of the bans are going out here, as Talia and Ari are both banned away. Again, looking towards those mid laners that Niski can roam around on and affect other lanes. Amumu and Braum banned out, getting rid of a couple of those meatball CC supports.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a low-range composition thus far between the Kai'Sa, Trundle, and Aatrox, and getting rid of Braum, who is very annoying to deal with that. Also gives you some protection in the bot side for the MF. So makes sense that they are targeting that one away. We'll see what Niski wants to go for mid lane. He did get rid of some of them, but you always have the other options. If he wants to go the LeBlanc skill matchup, which we just saw in the previous game, Minji made that one look very good, so we'll have to see.
Alrighty, Leona locked in. MF Leona, scary, scary stuff in a 2v2. Unforgiven again, just hovering that Karthus pick that
one day, dude,
holds in the back pocket. I obviously do not think we're going to see that locked in, considering he's already got his Kai'Sa, Alistar, Blitzcrank, a couple different options here.
Nope.
Pretty much only a jungler, so we're not going to see that.
Yep.
And Niski on Sylas got some pretty good ultis to steal here.
Yeah, Sylas coming up for him here. You're happy to grab the MF ultimate, happy to grab Leona, pretty much everyone. Let's go with everyone so far. All those can be used in different situations.
Yeah, you can dunk somebody with a Jarvan ulti, swoop them back with a Nazir ulti. Lots of different good options here. And then they take the Alistar as the final pick of the draft for themselves. That'll be the bottom lane. Kai'Sa Alistar versus the MF Leona of the Wildcats. Now, what is this final pick over here? Because it's got to be a top laner. And that is a little bit different compared to what I was expecting here, because it's not like this is a team that plays around Starscream. He's generally seen as one of the weaker players, but can play stuff like Ornn or Sylas and look to outplay the dives. It's Renekton picked as the last one.
All right, 5th pick Renekton into an Aatrox. We saw NA try that one. It didn't look so hot. We'll see if it looks better here for Starscreen into Armut. Very standard classic topside matchup. Renekton usually winning early on. If you don't get resources, though, it's very hard to actually blow open the game unless the Aatrox is misplaying.
Yep.
So if you leave it on the weak side, yes, it will win, and you can maybe make plays around the bot side if you care more about that, but otherwise you kind of end up usually just becoming a bit of a meatball for team fights.
So where are we expecting to see the focus here, Mark? Where's the action going to be?
I think for the side of Istanbul Wildcats, you're looking to maybe try and make some plays around bot lane. You have a lot of nice setup with the Leona. Jarvan can go flying in there. MF is very happy to get kills early on. Kai'Sa can, doesn't have too many escapes other than the speed up early on, so if you're able to get on top of her, you can start getting some kills that way. I think for Mad Lions, kind of pick up the litter here. Like, you're happy if you can get any of these lanes going. It's basically a 3-threat composition.
All righty, we're about ready to jump in here. Mad Lions already got a win earlier today. I'm expecting them to feel even better coming into this one with that win, already getting warmed up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they played the first game of Worlds for 2022. Understandable if there were some jitters, there were some nerves for them going into that game and maybe made some decisions that they would take back. But the fact that they walked away with that win, they're going up against another team that they're favored here. Europe's already 2-0 on the day. They're eating good, all right? I know some of them might be asleep. They'll wake up, see that they're potentially 3-0 on the day. You have to feel very good if you're able to do that.
Plus, like we talked about during game number 1, for Mad Lions, it's very important to win these first couple of games because these are seen as your weaker opponents in the group. They are in that group that a lot of people consider the much more difficult journey to be able to get out of play-ins, so you got to grab every win where you can get it. Let's rock and roll. We got teleports up and running on all 4 solo laners like you'd expect. We do have the cleanse for Unforgiven to be able to get away from that Leona. Holy Phoenix running the heal on the Misfortune, so a bit more combat power in the 2v2 there for the Wildcats.
Yeah, not a surprise, like we said, maybe being the lane that they want to target. Can easily see them going down there, making some plays happen. See some of the rune choices here. Whenever this, I'll be 100% honest, whenever this graphic flies, my eyes just gloss over. And if I see something interesting later, then I always end up going back and looking at it. But it's just, it's information overload. What do you... I don't know, looks normal.
Yep, looks like pretty standard stuff to me. Free boots, cookies there for both of the AD carries. Got some Hex Flash action down there for the Alistar. One of the most prominent users of that rune, I think, ever since runes got reforged.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the choice is, did you go Glacial Augment or not? There's some of that going on for the Alistars as well. But I always like the Aftershock just because without your ultimate, you're so squishy in mid to late game. And if you can get that little bit of extra durability window that you might not need to pop your ultimate and get it forced out or something like that. I do like that, though. You sometimes see both, and obviously Hex Flash being critical for both these supports to be able to make some big plays happen.
Also, the Aftershock just gives you a bit better of ball of stats trading in the lane, right? Like, if you're going to go in like that, having the extra defenses can go a long way. Anyway, let's take a look down here at the bottom lane. Holy Phoenix, this is the guy to keep your eyes on for the Wildcats. This is who they want to set up. This is the star. This is the leader. This is the guy that if they're going to get a win here, I expect it to be through him.
Yeah, I think Holy Phoenix in that finals that we talked about was a 5-game series. It was super crazy. He had a couple of absolutely disgusting Sivir games. Sivir's dead in the meta, but I think it speaks to his carry potential in team fights. That's kind of who he is. MF is a different identity. It's not quite the auto attack based kit. You can still weave in a lot of those with your strut, which is extremely powerful, but you usually win or lose the team fight based off your ultimate usage and if you were able to get jumped on and obliterated early. But his positioning is usually pretty good. He can be aggressive, but I think he'll be able to power this champion quite well. He's not just an auto attack player.
And hey, this is different from the last game that we saw MF and Leona going up against like the Caitlyn Lux. They're not stuck underneath the turret early on. They don't feel suffocated in the early laning phase. They're doing just fine. Ferret's moving in, trying to steal away the chickens from Elyoya, who's going to hang out nearby, but it doesn't really matter. Ferret's got the smite. He's got his mid laner right next to him. That's what mid lane priority gets you. And Ferret will go ahead, leave that last chicken alive. You can see Elyoya doubling back. He's going to make sure he clears that one out, keeps his camp timers where they need to be. And Starscreen just hanging out here in the top side river, making sure he's got control over that top side crab. Both solo lanes early on in control for the Wildcats.
Yeah, I do like that invade. I think Saren is a power point, especially early on for this Azir getting that shove, get that play. But Elyoya wants to answer back. He wants his blue buff. Doesn't have smite.
Neither one has smite. And the blue buff is about to run out of patience here. Down to 400 HP. Oh, Elyoya throwing out the pillar. Saren goes over the wall. Blue buff resets. 3-man commitment from Mad, 4-man response from the side of the Wildcats. Blue buff now going to be aggroed up again. Elyoya set on this one.
Yeah, the fact that Niski has shove mid means that if they do want to contest this, they're not going to have the Azir, or the Azir has to be sacking farm. Looks like he's trying to get the best of both worlds right now, but eventually Wildcat's going to have to back off. Elyoya, successful invade.
Elyoya takes it. He doesn't even have to use the smite. Both of their smites coming up around the same time. Nicely done from Matt. Hey, you take a chicken, the other guy takes a blue buff. He's coming out on top.
Yeah, feeling good. I also like the bot lane for Unforgiven, not on the Seraphine. I think it's a very strong pick. We've already seen it a couple times today. We'll see it a lot more, but I want to see him on this higher agency champion, I guess you could say. That's what Kai'Sa is known for, is when you pop that R, you go in and you start taking over team fights. We've seen it once today already.
And especially with what you were talking about when we saw the first half of the draft, it was the Kai'Sa, the Aatrox, and the Trundle. This is Kai'Sa and 4 melee champions. That's kind of Kai'Sa's whole thing. She's the AD carry who can role play the melee champion, diving in with everybody else, just being part of that ballistic missile.
Yeah, absolutely the case. If you can get a good Alistar combo, Niski can pop off, whatever it is, you can go flying in there. And there are a number of high priority targets, whether it's the MF or the Azir. If you can blow them up early, Mad Lions will be very happy about that. Doing a good job so far. Kind of controlling the early game. It does feel like they are less interested in making super big plays early on, getting to like those 6s to get those team fights. As dun.
No.
What do you mean no? You didn't like our podcast before?
I've run out of podcast ideas,
You've
Mark.
podcasted out?
I ran out of podcast ideas halfway through the last podcast. What do you think Trucker Orn was being summoned up from the pits of my ideas for? I've had him in my brain since like 2015.
You reach into your pocket.
Or wherever Orn was released.
It's a meme where it's just all the same thing with the crow, and it's all
it's
just Trucker
like,
Orn.
I don't have any material left. I don't know where we're going. All right, we will update you guys as soon as we know what is going on here with the game. Hopefully this pause can be resumed very swiftly. I'm not quite sure exactly what the cause of things are. I would guess it's got to be something with a remote setup, as that has sort of been the thorn in our side all day.
Yeah, no update from Niski this time around. He was very talkative in game 1. I always appreciate players who have some stuff to say. Let the other team know lag or audio issues, whatever it is, because then we also get to know what it is.
Yeah. Just helps everybody out here a little bit. But unfortunately, there's also not really a whole lot to talk about with the current game state either. We haven't really been going on that far. We are hearing that Holy Phoenix has reported in-game audio issues. The dreaded audio pause. The esports Grim Reaper has reared his face again.
Are you trying to caster curse it? It's unstoppable, the audio pause. Yeah, it's hopefully something that they can get fixed out quickly here. Like you were saying, this is one of the unfortunate times to get hit with a pause. It's far enough into the game that some stuff has happened, so you can't just speculate on how lane phases are going to go. Maybe they'll do this with their first clear, but also nothing has happened other than that blue buff invade, really. I mean, hats off to Mad for having a decent early start to the game, but otherwise, like we said, this is mostly team fighting for both these comps that they're going to be looking to do.
Yeah, I like the fact that early on, the Wildcats were playing around the priority they had in the solo lanes to secure that topside Scuttle Crab, to look to secure that chicken camp. But it was Mad who came out on top just saying, all right, well, now that things are bouncing back the other way, we're going to take something of greater value. Whenever I see teams be willing to rotate away from their lanes, move in early, we're talking like level 2, level 3 types of fights, that's a promising sign of good coordination.
Yeah, absolutely the case. And I think for Mad Lions, that's one of the things that felt like it slipped away a little bit in the regular season. They were so good about coordinating as a team. Then the meta kind of changed.
Yep.
They struggled, like we were saying, to find exactly how they wanted to play that game. What was their new identity? Is it pushing, shoving mids and trying to still make plays all over the map? Is it, we're going to start funneling Unforgiven? Is it going to be Niski on Cassiopeia? They tried a lot of different things in playoffs, unable to make it work.
And I think if you're a Mad Lions fan, you want to see a convincing win here, not just a win. Going back to game number 1, there were some oopsies. There were a couple of issues with taking some Baron attempts, getting AoE'd to death. You want to see something get cleaned up a little bit more,
Yeah, absolutely the case. Hopefully we have the game unpausing soon. I saw some R's in the chat, but I don't know if you can trust these R's.
Yeah, these seem to be surrounded by memes. I don't trust these at all, Mark.
Yeah, Niski
started it. That means that it's got at least a 50% chance of being BS.
Yep.
Oh, looks like we're about to get back into the game. We high rolled it, Mark. The coin came up heads, and it's time to head back into the rift. Let's see what happens. Starscreen's got this wave pushed up, does get hit by the chains. Mad Lion, uh-oh. It looks like they were trying to make that happen there, but they didn't send Elyoya over the wall. Kai'Sa still might be able to find this. Goes for the headbutt, goes for the pole, gets the first blood over to Mad Lions.
Alrighty, there we go. Kai'Sa on the roam. This is one of the things he was so good at in the regular season, and honestly for his entire career, being able to get out of the lane phase, make things happen. The shift towards funnel your AD carry was not great for Kai'Sa either. The identity that he wants to be here, able to get up to the top side with Armit, who had the wave in a good spot, was able to get some good trades on the Starscreen, and just use that blast cone for first blood. Only downside did end up on Kai'Sa, having to take that one away.
And you can see here the a little bit of a miscalculation with the angles.
No. That's Elyoya saying, you got this.
Yeah, he's trusting his
I'm going
support.
back to Gromp. You get the kill, Kai'Sa. I don't need it.
He's trusting his support. And you can see Kai'Sa just goes in, slaps him upside the head, nothing to it. 1-0 for the Mad Lions, nice and early.
Yep, able to get that. They also traded flashes up in the top side, Arma and Starscreen as well, meaning that if you want to try and make some repeat plays here as you're hitting your 6s on people like Niski, Elyoya soon as well, maybe you can make some more kills happen. But Ferret
gets away over the wall. It's luckily pretty easy to walk away from Trundle with Jarvan. You just EQ away from the pillar, keep yourself out of that danger zone, escape the slows. But that does mean Mad Lions still maintains control over the bot side river. That does mean Elyoya is going to grab this Scuttle Crab, and it does mean Mad Lions are up about 1,000 gold with a 1-kill lead. That feels really good.
Yeah, feeling so good so far this game. We are coming up a minute out from when, hold on.
Oh boy. Stolen Jarvan ulti. Meanwhile, up in the top side, Starscreen's going for it. Armit's got to try to get away. Starscreen's stacking up that Fury, but he will not be able to stay on top of the Aatrox long enough, and Armit walks away.
A little dicey there for a second, but a trade of ultimates. Armit gets out just fine. Going to grab some honey fruit here while the wave collapses into his turret. Come back healthier. Niski, I think, just wants to use the ultimate since he had it up.
Yep.
Just drop it, get a trade down onto Saren. You can see that gets him maybe some prio in the lane. Also up TP advantage, which means it's very difficult for the Wildcats to make a play, potentially down to the bot side. We're talking about maybe they can get the Jarvan to find a kill, but if you do go for a play for Holy Phoenix to start trying to funnel in some gold, Niski can follow up, and there's no way for anyone else to match. He's the only TP available in the game right now.
Exactly, and that is huge. Whenever there is a TP discrepancy like that, the other squad always has to be aware of the fact that fights are not as they seem. Things can very much be shrouded in smoke and mirrors, and if he's got the right ward at the right time, things go south really fast.
And I think that's one of the things that I saw Wildcats struggling with a little bit in their playoff run, keeping track of teleport timers as well as vision control in River, making sure that they can spot the enemy moving in and out of the jungle or leaving a lane like this. So you can see already Mad Lions clearing out the bot lane vision, while see Farfetch making a roam towards mid lane.
All right, Farfetch, let's see if he can make anything happen like Kaiser did. Looks like Niski's just fine here, has stolen away the Azir ulti this time, so if they try to really commit onto the Sylas, he'll just be able to throw him right on back. Ferret does have his own ulti now. No longer is it just the Sylas who's got those Jarvan ultis ready to go. They jump in after him. Unforgiven goes in. Ferret goes down. Mad Lions go off 2-0.
There's the LEC MVP finding some action in the game, getting the scoop back onto the flashless Ferret, gives them an easy kill there. Unforgiven and Kaiser making the roam up, given the Rift Herald spawn secure that one. 2 plays, 2 kills, feeling very good for Mad Lions.
Mad Lions, man. That first game, that was the warm-up. Now they're moving, they're grooving. The early game's feeling awesome here for these guys. And we're kind of looking up top at, okay, Aatrox is starting to feel comfortable. He's got his ninja tabbies or plated steel caps or whatever you want to call them.
I still call them tabbies too, dude.
That's fair.
No shame.
That's fair. Old school stuff. But here's the play that Niski made.
Yeah, you can see there, Kaiser also committing, I believe it was the flash to try and get that combo onto him. Did not stop the ultimate from coming through, but didn't matter because there's just no way out. Nice collapse by Unforgiven. Here you go. Gets the kill for himself as